The Toronto Sceptres have made two new signings this morning, bringing back defender Jess Kondas for what will be her fourth season with the team, and bringing in goaltender Grace Campbell out of Boston College. Now, I think that there were a good bit of questions about what Toronto was going to do with their goalie situation in going into this offseason when they didn't draft any goalies and Elaine Chuli left the team. So, yes, you have Jesse McPherson, but you need to have three, and it is pretty clear that Reagan Kirk is going to be the starter until it's proven otherwise. But you do still need like a solid backup, or at the minimum, the league requires you to have three goalies in your system. And the answer to that is Grace Campbell. And I gotta be honest, as a bit of an off the board pick, considering she didn't get taken in the draft, she looks like a pretty promising, pretty solid goaltender. In her past four seasons with Boston College, Grace Campbell has never had a goals against average that's a little over 2 and has never had a save percentage below 923. Those are really good numbers. In her first season, she played only 6 games with the team, which makes sense. She's a freshman. Had a 202 save percentage, a 925 goals against average, and a shutout with a 4-2 record. But in the 36 games, she had a 243 goals against average, a 923 save percentage, and 3 shutouts with a 15, 14, and 7 record. 34 games in her third season. She had a 204 goals against average, a 930 save percentage with 5 shutouts, went 20, 11, and 2. Then, in her last season at Boston College, where she served as the captain for the 25-26 season, she played 34 games with a 264 goals against average and a 927 save percentage with 4 shutouts. Record of 15, 18, and 1. Those are some really solid numbers aside from the wins losses. Like, aside from the actual record overall, those are a little bit unfortunate. But when you're posting a 927 save percentage, what more can you do? It's hard for me to blame her in that instance, especially when you look at the Sceptres last year. Great goaltending. Kirk was the third best goalie in the league, but the team couldn't bloody score. So the record is only so much her fault. If she's posting a 930 and 927, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think the record isn't nearly as indicative as the rest of her numbers are for skill. To me, this looks like she's going to be a solid backup to Reagan Kirk. Her numbers are better than Jesse McPherson's college numbers, and I'm sure throughout training camp, throughout preseason, we'll get a better idea of who's going to be placed where. Hell, they might kind of cycle who's the backup depending on what game it is. This is a player I'm honestly really excited about. I think it's going to be a little bit funny for us as Toronto fans to have another goaltender named Campbell to be in our crease. But for an undrafted player and someone that we were able to pick up this far into the offseason, it feels like the draft was over 2 weeks ago. I am actually really looking forward to this. I think she's going to be a great addition to the team and to the goaltending situation. Next up, we have Jess Kondas. And Jess Kondas, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be entering now her 4th season with the Sceptres. Inaugural year, she was actually on a reserve contract. And then the past 2 seasons, she has had a regular standard player agreement, but has been a healthy scratch, basically unless it's been required that she isn't through injuries or suspensions or whatever else. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting Kondas to be back. I wouldn't have blamed her if she wanted to jump ship and go somewhere that they could assure her she'd be getting more ice time or consistent time in the lineup at all. Like, you want to be dressed if you're a hockey player, right? But in the last season, she did get into 14 games, but there is a big caveat on that in that Troy Ryan basically pretended she wasn't on the bench. In the 14 games she was dressed for in the 25-26 season, 7 of them she played less than 90 seconds, which is 2 shifts, and 4 of those she actually didn't step foot onto the ice at all. Her time on ice is 0-0-0. Yes, she was in 14 games, But realistically, she was in 7 that she had any meaningful amount of impact on the game. And the thing is, I don't think she's bad. Like, is it mostly zeros across the board when she plays? Yeah. But if you're going to be a third pairing defender, that's all you got to do. If you're on the third pair, you're playing 10, 15 minutes a night, the best thing you can do is make people not notice you're there. You don't necessarily create crazy good chances. You might not score a whole ton of goals. You might not set up a whole ton of goals. But as long as you don't let any opportunities come back, as long as you're not giving up huge opportunities to the enemy team, as a third pairing D, that's perfectly fine. You're there to eat the clock, and she seems to do a pretty solid job at that. So her re-signing makes me think she either really likes the group and Toronto as a whole, or Kingsbury really likes her as a player and can kind of assure her with Pascal Rayom that she might actually be getting ice time. I would just be surprised if she's committing to a fourth year on the team to be sitting in the press box for most of the season. I just can't really see that happening. Especially when last year there were times when Fast was injured or Monroe was injured, and instead of putting in this healthy scratch they have in Kondas into the lineup, they actually called up Baskin and had her put on a 10-day agreement and put her in the lineup ahead of her. Like, she got leapfrogged a couple times last year. So I'm curious to see how that develops. Worth noting, as of right now, with the addition of Kondas, Toronto does only have 5 defenders. They lost Shelbin and they lost Harmon because she retired. So they only have their top 4, which is a solid top 4. Fast Shelton, God, I hope she has a better season. And then you have Monroe Flanagan, which is going to be great, like it always is. So who's your third pair? Is it going to be Baskin Kondas? Is it going to be one of the new players they've drafted? That's obviously something that'll only be found out in the preseason and in training camp and when the official rosters are released. But to me, this seems like a player who, if nothing else, is loyal to this team. And I think she can have a really good chance at actually getting some regular minutes and being in the regular lineup this year, because I think she's a solid third pairing D. But obviously, we will see how things go. We'll see how it develops. But I'm happy to see her back. That's all I can say. What do you guys think? What do y'all think of these re-signing and signing of Kondas and Campbell? Anyone who saw Grace Campbell at college, what'd you think of her game? Either way, Toronto still has like barely half of a roster right now, so I'm expecting a lot more moves to be happening in the next month and a half or 2 months. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Click like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want more. It's coming together.